It's 7:30 in the evening across India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Global, bringing you the day's big stories from across India and the world. My colleague Nick Harper is joining me from Washington, D.C. Nick, good to see you.
Good morning, Shubhendu. It's 9 a.m. here in Washington, D.C., 3 in the afternoon across Central Europe. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. We get the latest on tensions on the Korean Peninsula as the two countries break a military pact. And Sierra Leone remains under curfew after an armed attack on the military's main barracks. But first, the headlines.
Egyptian-Qatari and U.S. negotiators close to agreeing on extension of Gaza truce. Israel-Hamas deliberate details of hostages and prisoners to be released today. Uttarkashi Tunnel collapse rescue operation to continue despite expected rains. Rat miners join in the rescue efforts. And China battles surge in respiratory illness, especially among children. India is on alert, reviews preparedness. As Israel and Hamas entered the final day of an agreed 4-day ceasefire on Monday, Israel has said that discussions are currently being held about the list of hostages to be received overnight and reiterated that their campaign to end Hamas will resume immediately after the process of bringing the hostages home. Sources say Egyptian, Qatari and US negotiators are close to agreeing on an extension to the truce, but are still discussing the length of the extension and which prisoners would be freed under it.
Discussions are currently being held surrounding the list of hostages to be released that was received overnight. All relevant security and government officials are evaluating that list, and additional information will be provided in due course. The campaign to end Hamas and bring our hostages home will resume immediately with the end of the hostage release pause. I'm not going to speculate, obviously, about the exact operational movements.
And tracking the latest developments, DD India's Sarah Coates sent us this report from Tel Aviv.
We do know that right now Qatar is mediating once again between Israel and Hamas. This is over the lists that were provided to each party on who would be released tonight. We're talking about the Palestinian prisoners and also these Israeli and foreign national hostages. Now, according to Palestinian sources, Hamas believes that there are 6 names that should have been on that list that are not. It says that it's urging Israel to use a seniority principle, saying that people who were jailed first should be the first to actually be released. So look, the Palestinians, the Hamas group, rather, I should say, is pushing Israel to include these 6 names on that list, while Israel says that Hamas has been breaking the deal because on the Israeli list, it says that there are families which have been split up. Now, according to the deal, all families must remain together. So, look, there is some contention there. Qatar really working overtime to try and smooth things out ahead of this potential final release a little later this evening. But we do know right now the Israeli establishment, the War Cabinet, is meeting to try and discuss these matters and see where to go from here.
Meanwhile, United Nations relief agencies seeking to deliver aid into northern Gaza. Trucks carrying aid and ambulances were seen lined up and moving to the north of the Gaza Strip. The truce agreed last week is the first halt in fighting in the 7 weeks since Hamas attacked Israel. And EU's foreign policy chief Joseph Borrell said the 4-day truce is an important first step, and an extension of the truce in Gaza would allow working on the political situation.
Now we have a recent agreement on a 4-day truce and the release of civilian hostages. This is an important first step. We appreciate the role of Qatar, Egypt and others in achieving it. A Palestinian state in Gaza, in the West Bank and East Jerusalem is the best and only long-term guarantee for Israel's security. There will not be peace or security for Israel without a Palestinian state.
NATO's top official on Monday also called for an extension to the humanitarian pause. Secretary General Hans Stoltenberg said in a news conference in Brussels that the suffering we have seen underlines the need for a lasting political solution.
I welcome that the agreement between Hamas and Israel has led to the release of hostages and the delivery of more humanitarian aid. I call for an extension of the pause. This would allow for much needed relief to the people of Gaza and the release of more hostages.
Israel President Isaac Herzog on Monday, together with President of Germany Frank-Walter Steinmeier, visited kibbutz where at least 100 residents were killed, several others kidnapped, many buildings destroyed in the terror attack by Hamas on October 7th. The two presidents met with survivors of the massacre, toured some of the ruins of buildings destroyed. The German president also allocated funds to rebuild the kibbutz Be'eri art gallery, which was completely devastated in the attack.
The president and I, we were deciding to take the patronage for the rebuilding of the art gallery and the convening house in which the people in peaceful times were gathering every day.
Elon Musk met Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday and inspected the remains of the kibbutz near the Gaza border. Israel hosted Elon Musk, announcing that a principled agreement had been reached for the use of SpaceX Starlink communication system in the Gaza Strip. Netanyahu's office said Prime Minister discussed security aspects of artificial intelligence with Musk. Moving on, there is a surge of respiratory illnesses, primarily among children in China. My colleague Nick Harper is in Washington, D.C., gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Nick, it appears like a new public health crisis in China.
That's right, Shibendu. With China battling a surge in respiratory illnesses, India is on alert. It's decided to proactively review preparedness and measures in view of the emerging public health situation in China. Meanwhile, China's health ministry has urged local authorities to increase the number of clinics to tackle rising cases.
China is battling a surge in respiratory illnesses. Cases among children are appearing especially high in northern areas like Beijing and Liaoning province. And in these areas, hospitals are warning of long waits. China's health ministry urged local authorities to increase the number of fever clinics.
It's very critical that one is that for the medical service sector, they need to develop so-called graded health admission system, because you have to avoid the sudden surge of patients and coming into the clinic and the hospitals. One of the problems is that when a lot of people coming into the hospital systems, actually the hospital could be overwhelmed by so many patients, and if you do not actually deal with the situation properly, there will be a lot of cross-infections.
The surge in acute respiratory illnesses is linked to simultaneous circulation of several kinds of pathogens, most prominently influenza.
This was always going to be a difficult winter, the first winter after the end of COVID restrictions. Remember, COVID restrictions, as well as stopping the transmission of COVID, they also stopped the transmission of flu and many other similar illnesses too. So that's why we're seeing a lot more cases now compared to a year ago.
The Indian Health Ministry has issued an advisory and has decided to proactively review preparedness and measures in view of emerging public health situation in China. In a letter by Union Health Secretary to states and UTs, they have been advised to immediately review public health and hospital preparedness measures like availability of HR, hospital beds, drugs and vaccines for influenza, medical oxygen, antibiotics, personal protective equipment, testing kits and reagents, functionality of oxygen plants and ventilators, infection control measures in health facilities at a senior level. All states and union territories have been advised to implement operational guidelines for revised surveillance strategy, in the context of COVID-19 shared earlier this year, which provides for integrated surveillance of respiratory pathogens presenting as cases of influenza-like illness and severe acute respiratory illness. They have also been asked to ensure that the trends should be closely monitored by the district and state surveillance units of the Integrated Disease Surveillance Project, particularly of children and adolescents. As per the WHO, the release of COVID-19 restrictions coinciding with the onset of winter season have led to this surge. Bureau Report, DD India.
The South Korean military claims that North Korea has deployed soldiers and heavy weapons at guard posts near the border, following the suspension of a military accord between the two nations. This comes amidst warnings from Pyongyang that it would continue to exercise its sovereign rights, including through satellite launches, while allegedly restoring demolished guard posts in several locations around the border with South Korea. DD India's Chris Gilbert sent us this report from Tokyo.
North Korea did provide some notice that it was going to attempt another satellite launch sometime before December. It did so. It followed through on that just under a week ago. At that time, it said it was intended to launch more satellites in that window, which we've not seen yet, of course, but it is repeating those vows at the moment. The significance of all this, of course, is that move by South Korea in response to suspend Article 1, Clause 3 of the CMA, the Comprehensive Military Agreement that put in place no-fly zones in an attempt to de-escalate the whole region. And what we've seen in response from North Korea to that is, as you said, the reconstruction of some guard posts along the DMZ. North Korea always justifies, or for the most part, always justifies what it does militarily as in self-defense and the protections of its rights against what it perceives to be military assertiveness from South Korea and its allies like the US. So again, no surprises that it is reconstructing these guard posts, but certainly inflammatory behavior from both sides. It's hard to quantify hostilities between two countries, but if we look at the statistics, it's been a relatively quiet year from North Korea in terms of missile launches. It's launched about half of what it did last year, which was, of course, a record year. So we've not seen the rise in tensions from the military side of things, but we have seen a simmering due to the maneuvering from both sides geopolitically. North Korea, of course, getting much closer and reaffirming and showing up its ties with Moscow, and South Korea, of course, expediting a warming of tide with Tokyo and with Washington as well.
Sierra Leone has been under military curfew since Sunday after armed gunmen attacked the military's main and largest barracks in the West African nation's capital of Freetown. The government says investigations are ongoing, and the president has said several people involved have been arrested without confirming the identity of the attackers.
In the early hours of this morning, there was a breach of security at the military barracks at Wilberforce in Freetown. Some individuals attacked the military armory and other locations in Freetown, including Pademba Road Correctional Center. In the event, prisoners escaped. The attackers have been repelled by a combined team of gallant security forces, and calm has been restored. Most of the leaders have been arrested.
For more on this, DD India's Ajak Mungut sent us this report from Abuja.
Sierra Leone's President Julius Maada Bio says his security forces successfully repelled the renegade soldiers who attempted to break into a military armory. In a televised address, he described the events as a breach of security and an attack on democracy without calling it an attempted coup. President Maada Bio warned that all those responsible for the attack will be held accountable. A nationwide curfew was declared after gunmen attacked the military's main and largest barracks, including a major prison holding more than 2,000 inmates. The country's Civil Aviation Authority urged airlines to reschedule flights, and a directive was reportedly given to close the borders. Sierra Leone has been tense since President Barrow's re-election in June. The poll results were rejected by the main opposition candidate. In August 2022, at least 21 civilians and 6 police officers were killed in an anti-government protest in Sierra Leone, which is still recovering from a 1991 to 2002 civil war in which more than 50,000 were killed. President Barrow said the protests were an attempt to overthrow the government. The events in Sierra Leone come at a time when democratically elected governments in West Africa have been overthrown by the military. About 5 countries have experienced coups since 2020. The regional bloc, the Economic Community of West African States, condemned the plot to disrupt peace in Sierra Leone. Ajek Mangut in Abuja, reporting for DD India.
Staying with West Africa, and coastal communities in Ghana's capital, Accra, are gradually being wiped out due to erosion. Environmentalists say the rise in sea levels linked to climate change is largely to blame. They're warning that the situation is likely to get worse if action is not taken to reverse the trend. DD India's Nabil Ahmed Rufai sent us this report.
This house hanging over the cliff edge was once home to Bawa Seidu. He lived here with his family until the sea began to claim it.
When I was a young boy, the sea was very far from my house. Even during high tides, the sea never came close to destroying our houses. But when I turned 25 years old, I noticed that the sea had moved closer to my house and the tidal waves started to wash buildings away.
Ghana loses about 2 meters of its coastline every year to coastal erosion. According to UNESCO, nearly 40% of Ghana's coastal land was lost to erosion between 2005 and 2017. Hundreds of people in this community have already been displaced. Experts blame rising sea levels linked to climate change and other human activities.
A few years ago, this area was a drinking spot for partygoers who came to the beach. Now it's totally gone, and what remains are the pillars of the former recreation place.
The government has been responding to the situation by constructing sea defense walls along the shoreline, but the project has been halted due to the lack of funds. Experts say the country must turn to climate adaptive measures, which are less costly.
Mangroves, cultivation can help, manage, the sea level rise and the impact of the sea in communities. So maybe we could start doing this kind of engagement or interventions whilst we expect, government to take action.
In 2009, developed countries pledged to contribute $100 billion in climate finance annually to help developed countries adapt and mitigate against climate change. The support was to begin in 2020 and end in 2025, but analysts are concerned the commitment has not been met, which is why developing nations continue to bear the brunt of environmental change.
They must also make available the appropriate technology, that we as Africans can use to address the impact of climate change. Of course, when it comes to technology, we're not talking about the green economy, the renewable energy, as replacement, for dirty fuel or fossil fuel, if you like. But we need technology, we need support to be able to implement these kind of interventions.
But these interventions are a long way from being realized, and all the while, the sea is eroding the land. Bawa Seidu is worried that his community may soon disappear. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, in Accra, Ghana, reporting for DD India.
UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has said his government is set to make the country the best place to invest in after announcing investment projects worth nearly $37 billion in the private sector. Sunak held a meeting with global executives in his bid to restore the country as Europe's top foreign direct investment destination. The British PM hopes his wooing of foreign investors will help to speed up Britain's economy.
We are setting about making this the best place in the world to invest and do business. Now, I'm unashamedly proud of Britain, and there is a growing momentum right here in the UK right now. And I believe that allowing you to keep more of the return on your capital, our country becomes more competitive as a place to invest, grow, and create jobs.
The United States, the UK and more than a dozen other countries have unveiled what a senior US official has described as the first detailed international agreement on how to keep artificial intelligence safe from rogue actors. In a 20-page document unveiled on Sunday, 18 countries agreed on companies designing and using AI to develop and deploy it in a safe manner to avoid misuse. The agreement is non-binding and carries general recommendations such as monitoring AI systems for abuse, protecting data from tampering, and vetting software suppliers. Well, that's it from me here in Washington. Shubendu, back to you in the studio.
Thanks very much, Nick, for joining us with those updates. And we're heading for a short break, but still to come on DD India Global. Rat miners joined the rescue efforts at Uttarkashi Tunnel collapse site. And 2023 Booker Prize awarded to Irish writer Paul Lynch.
A platform for the developing world, amplifying the voice of the global south with a focus on the growing economies, resolving the conflicts, showcasing the culture, tradition, heritage and diversity. Watch Voice of the Global South at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India Global. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. The efforts to rescue 41 workers trapped inside the Silkyara under construction tunnel in India's Uttarkashi are in full swing. The remaining parts of the auger machine stuck in the rubble were removed today. Vertical drilling is being done to make an escape route for the trapped workers. A delegation led by Principal Secretary to Indian Prime Minister Pramod Kumar Mishra took stock of the efforts. He also spoke with the trapped workers and their families, while Union Home Secretary Ajay Kumar Bhalla inquired about the food items sent to workers trapped inside the tunnel.
हमारा जो वर्टिकल बोरिंग भी काम चल रहा है, जो SJVNL कर रहा है, वो हमारा अभी 36 मीटर हो चुका है. हमें आप और 50 मीटर के लगभग हमें करना है. आप लोगों को याद होगा कि मैंने बोला था कि टोटल 86 मीटर उसमें जाना है. तो वो काम भी हमारा अच्छा चल रहा है.
Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. Almost 500,000 people were left without electricity after a powerful storm hit the Crimean Peninsula. Russian Emergencies Ministry reported that 1 person died, 10 were injured, and more than 350 people were evacuated. On Monday, residents of Moscow woke up to a snow-covered city after a night of first heavy snowfall this year. Parts of the city were buried in massive snowdrifts, disrupting transport, delaying flights and making it tough for pedestrians. The snowfall is expected to continue for the next couple of weeks. Parts of central and southern Germany resembled a winter wonderland on Monday after the season's first snowfall hit the region overnight. More snow and stormy gusts are expected for the Grosser Fiddelberg mountain in the north of Frankfurt in the coming days. The 2023 Booker Prize has been awarded to Irish writer Paul Lynch for his novel Prophet Song. Prophet Song tells the story of a family grappling with the terrifying new world in which the democratic norms they are used to begin to disappear. Hollywood actor and producer Michael Douglas will be honored with Satyajit Ray Lifetime Achievement Award at the 54th edition of International Film Festival of India, IFFI. He walked the red carpet today at IFFI with his active wife, Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Hollywood actor and producer Michael Douglas, along with wife Catherine Zeta-Jones and son Dylan Douglas, today marked their presence at the International Film Festival of India. Douglas is in Goa to receive the prestigious Satyajit Ray Lifetime Achievement Award at 54th IFFI. After walking the red carpet, the family interacted with the Indian press.
Our family loves India. This is our fourth visit. The first three times we're to the north. And now we have the pleasure and the joy and the honor of being here in Goa in the south. I am very grateful to IFFI. You pronounce it IFFI. Is the best way to pronounce IFFI, to get this wonderful honor. I actually had a history of Satyajit Ray back in college in the 1960s, and taking a film class, and became aware of some of his work and projects.
The actor and producer said he, along with Indian producer Shailendra Singh, are working on a project in India.
The first time I came here years ago was the idea of making sort of a sequel to Romancing the Stone, a movie made many years ago. It was titled Racing the Monsoon. And we worked on it, and you know, the most important part of these is the script, is the material. That's your architectural foundation. That's what everything is based upon. The truth is there's maybe 10 actors that can play the part, but nobody can repeat the structure. And we never kind of got it quite right. And also our film back then required the use of trains, a lot of trains. And of course the best time for trains in India is not the monsoon season, which is also the time when tourism is the busiest. So it was difficult that time, but the script wasn't right. So anyway, Shailendra put his head to it, and we're working as an outline on a script that we're all interested in, and we're going to hopefully go to the next draft of the script.
Actor Catherine Zeta-Jones emphasized her favorite movie of Bollywood is Om Shanti Om. She added that she would love to be a part if given a role in Indian cinema.
Well, I've always been a huge fan of Bollywood. And being a singer and a dancer, I dreamed that maybe the British film industry would do a Bollywood-type film and I would be able to be cast in it. But I wasn't. But I would. I love it. When my kids were very small, my son will tell you that we showed him Om Shanti Om, which was one of my favorite movies.
Michael Douglas has won everything from Oscar awards to Emmy to Golden Globe to Palme d'Or at Cannes. With Satyajit Ray Lifetime Achievement Award, another prestigious award has been added to the list, registering its presence on the global stage.
We are at the last leg of the 54th edition of International Film Festival of India. Apart from other highlights, masterclasses, in conversation sessions, the biggest emphasis today was on the Hollywood duo Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones, who came here, interacted with the press and unveiled their plans and what it means to be honored with Satyajit Ray Lifetime Achievement Award. Shama Mishra, DD India, Goa.
Guru Nanak Jayanti is being celebrated all over the world on Monday to mark the birth anniversary of the first Guru of Sikhism, Guru Nanak Dev Ji.
India celebrates Guru Parv on 27th of November as the 554th birthday of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Guru Nanak Jayanti is celebrated on the 15th lunar day of the Hindu month of Kartik. It marks a very important day for Sikhs worldwide. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi also extended his greetings on the occasion.
गुरु नानक जी के अनमोल संदेश भारत ही नहीं दुनिया भर के लिए आज भी प्रेरक और प्रासंगिक है। ये हमें सादगी, सद्भाव और दूसरों के प्रति समर्पित होने के लिए प्रेरित करते हैं। गुरु नानक देव जी ने सेवा भावना, सेवा कार्यों की जो सीख दी, उसका पालन हमारे सिख भाई बहन पूरे विश्व में करते नजर आते हैं। मैं मन की बात के सभी श्रोताओं को गुरु नानक देव जी के प्रकाश पर्व की बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं देता हूं।
The Indian ambassador to the United States, Taranjit Singh Sandhu, celebrated the auspicious festival at a Gurudwara in Long Island, New York. The first Guru of the 10 Gurus, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, is the founder of Sikhism, and the day honors his teachings and wisdom. Members of the Indian community in Sri Lanka attended Kirtan, chanting of musical hymns, organized by the cultural arm of the High Commission of India. The Kirtan was performed in the Gurudwara Sri Guru Nanak Darbar in Colombo. Devotees also thronged the Gurudwara to offer their prayers. The celebration is well known for its fervent devotion, spiritual gatherings, and the recitation of hymns from the Guru Granth Sahib, the holy scripture of Sikhism. With Bureau Inputs, Kirit Chawla's report for DD India.
And that's all for this edition of DD India Global. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also find us online at ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Global. Namaskar.